When you hear of paracetamol, what readily comes to mind is its use for pain relief. But it will surprise you that some Nigerians now make use of paracetamol in tenderizing meat. Now, reports have revealed that some households and commercial food vendors are of the opinion that paracetamol saves costs since it is cheaper than making use of charcoal, kerosene, gas and other cooking fuel. There are also reports that many others make use of bleach in accelerating the processing of cassava for fufu, a local delicacy, while others make use of pesticides in the preservation of raw food. Food experts have drawn attention to the dangers in this practice, adding that it can lead to liver and kidney disease. But are Nigerians aware of this new trend? What health implications arise from the use of these substances? This is our focus on Nigeria today. Welcome to the program. I am Anne Jibuno. Now in the studio to discuss paracetamol as a cooking agent is Professor Martins Emeje. He is the immediate past national chairman of the Academics Pharmacists in Nigeria. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Now, are you aware of the news that restaurateurs are making use of paracetamol in tenderizing meat?
Yeah, sure, definitely. It's not a new thing, actually, because there's been report of the use of paracetamol in tenderizing meat or in cooking meat for close to 10 years now. Notorious countries in this area include Kenya, Uganda, Ghana, and Nigeria. And as far back as year 2000, there have been reports on these, and the regulatory authorities in these countries have been doing one thing or the other. Scientists in those countries too, pharmacists, food scientists, and chemists have also been trying to come up with maybe knowing the prevalence and then why people do that, and providing solution to that. So it's not new, but I think as is usual in our own country, because we are emotional about everything, we are now talking about it, and it's on social media.
It's many people are not aware that this practice is ongoing. Now, do we have a particular part of the country where this practice is prevalent, or is it nationwide?
Well, I'm a scientist, and to answer that question, there's need for research, and Nigeria is not a research country.
Now, what's the chemical process involved in cooking paracetamol? What happens to paracetamol when it's cooked?
Yeah, first of all, I'm a pharmacist, and I'll tell you that our drug is not meant for cooking any food. So when you use the drug differently from what we told you to use it for, you are actually doing drug abuse. So when you hear about drug abuse and misuse, what you are it's not just about codeine or tramadol. Using paracetamol to cook in restaurants or at home is drug abuse and misuse. So let's establish that in the first instance, that the drug paracetamol is produced by the pharmacist to take care of pain, to relieve pain primarily. That is why we make paracetamol. Now, the process of making paracetamol, only the pharmacist knows. And it will surprise you. And in fact, those who use paracetamol to cook food, not just meat, some people use it to cook beans too. Studies in Kenya and Uganda have shown that people use it to also cook beans. And if you know the process we go through and where we make paracetamol from, you will run. If you are not told to take paracetamol, you will be on your heels. Why do I say so? Benzene, if you go to filling station, petrol stations, you know you smell, we call it sweet aroma. What is responsible for that sweet aroma is called benzene.
So the aroma of fuel?
Yes, the smell you get at the petrol station, that sweet smell, which many people, you know, there are a lot of our youths also who just want to sniff petrol because it does a lot of things to them. That chemical is called benzene. And that benzene is a common product from the petroleum industry, from crude oil. So in Nigeria, there's a lot of benzene. Now, benzene itself is a very toxic chemical. But by the training of a pharmacist, he's able to convert any poison to a useful product when he or she wants to do that. And so what we do to benzene is to produce paracetamol from benzene. So there's a series of chemical processes that we go through in order to come up with paracetamol. In other words, what I'm saying is that benzene is the precursor, is the raw material that we use to make paracetamol. It is a process. Now, by the time we make paracetamol, you now have a product that is no longer toxic. You have a product that is now useful, that can heal, that can treat. So we have converted this toxic material or chemical to a useful product called paracetamol. Okay? Now, the paracetamol that has now become a drug, before you take it, studies have been conducted in the laboratories, in animals, in man. That is preclinical and clinical studies. So then we came up with the dose that can now be used in humans.
Safely used.
Yes. That dose is what we call the therapeutic dose. So when you go to the hospital or you get to your pharmacy, because paracetamol is an over-the-counter drug, and he tells you that you are to take 1 tablet of this paracetamol or 2 tablets of this paracetamol 2 times or 3 times a day, it is because within the spectrum of the study, we have come up with the dose that is safe for human use.
So when it's boiled.
Now, before we get to boiling, when you use above that dose, you are no longer respecting the dose that has been prescribed by your doctor or given to you by your pharmacist based on professional studies. In other words, you are abusing or misusing that drug, and you are likely taking overdose, meaning you are taking the dose that can now kill you. We'll get to that. Now, any drug that you take goes through a system in the body that we call metabolism. That is, the drug will break down into forms as it is healing or treating you. It is breaking down into forms that it has to leave your body. You see, because what we put together, when you see our tablet, it contains so many things, and it's not all of them that are needed to heal you. Some of them may just be needed to transport the drug from somewhere into your blood, so that the blood can act, so that the drug can act. And even the drug itself, the form which we want it to be to act, by the time it acts in that form, for it to leave your body, it breaks down, and that is what we call metabolism. So when paracetamol breaks down, it breaks down into different forms. We call them metabolites. There are 3 major ways by which paracetamol breaks down. We call them glucuronation, N-hydroxylation and dehydration, and sulfation. Now, these are
Yes, yes.
our own languages, but what it means is that these three major ways are the forms in which paracetamol will become detoxified in the human system.
Now what happens?
And the organ majorly responsible for this is the liver. You see, I'm taking it this way so that by the time we get to the problems that are associated with using paracetamol to cook food, you will now appreciate it. So take note, the liver is majorly responsible for converting paracetamol to these metabolites in order for it not to be toxic. But one of these three procedures, there is an intermediate metabolite that happens. Very minute, but very potent intermediate and extremely toxic. That intermediate, we call it N-acetyl imidoquinone. So we say generally that the metabolite of paracetamol that is responsible for its toxic effect is the benzoquinone metabolites.
These are very big words.
Yes, but we have to say it so that you know. Now, I will get to that level and I will tell you. Now, this portion, this metabolite, this intermediary is when you take the dose that the doctor prescribed and the pharmacist has given to you, there is a process that quickly detoxifies this highly toxic intermediate.
So when you boil it, what now happens?
When you boil, you break down paracetamol into these metabolites I'm trying to explain to us. When you boil paracetamol, when you heat paracetamol, when you use it to cook food, what you have done is that you break down paracetamol into these metabolites that you are now consuming. And for example, the toxic intermediate that I just mentioned now, you now have a lot of it in your food. So you are actually consuming a very toxic component of that product. It's no longer paracetamol, because at that point it's no longer paracetamol. You have broken down paracetamol into its component parts, and one of it is this toxic metabolite, which I call N-acetyl imidoquinone. So, and what it does is that it kills, really. It kills. It has been implicated in liver toxicity. In fact, liver failure. It can even lead to liver failure. It has also been implicated in kidney failure. You know, because after metabolism, the drug has to leave the body, and it majorly leaves the body through the urine, through the kidney. You know, so in that process, it affects let me also tell us. You see that
it is acidic. It's
no,
dangerous.
I'm not here to talk about. Yes, it's dangerous. I mean, I don't think if it is about it being dangerous, we don't have a case. We can't say more
because
than
we have to
that
take a
it is
break
dangerous.
now, and we have to take a break now to listen to what Nigerians have to say on this issue.
Definitely no doubt about it that it has health implications, and the implication could be very dangerous. You know, you recall that recently there's this issue of cancer, all sorts of diseases and ailments, you know, even among the youths. So these are the things that causes the lifestyle, you know, the kind of food we eat, you know, the way it is prepared.
I can't really tell the health implication of it, because paracetamol is used to calm down, as in when you're having some fever or headache. So I've not really heard about it being used to soften meat. I don't really know the implication of it.
I didn't aware of that actually. We are just coming here and buy food, and the food is okay and it is also delicious. I'm going to research about what you said to me.
This is just to encourage us to that we should eat less outside and you should know where you are eating. If you can stick to a restaurant, even if it's far.
I have never had it. I use onions and salt to cook meat. It will, no matter how strong the meat is, when you put onions, it is soft. I've never had it, so I can't use it, and I will never use it till I will die.
That one is wrong cooking. No, I don't advise that kind of people. If you people see that kind of person, you should arrest that kind of person.
This is still Nigeria Today, and we're looking at paracetamol as a cooking agent. We have Professor Martins Emeje, the immediate past national chairman of academics, pharmacists in Nigeria, with us today. Now, is it possible to tell when paracetamol has been used in cooking?
No.
It's not possible.
No, you can't look at food and know if paracetamol has been used.
And then is it, are there other substances that you can, safe ones, that can be used in tenderizing meat?
You should cook your meat now. There's no point looking for something to use in cooking meat or cooking your beans. You see, the problem with us is it's as if we are created to just be misbehaving. We should stop misbehaving. It's misbehavior. No drug is meant to cook any food. There's no drug that is meant to cook any food. Cook your food.
Now, we have also heard reports that people make use of bleach in processing cassava for fufu, as well as the use of pesticides in the preservation of raw food. What should NAFDAC be doing at this point? What kind of advice would you give to agencies like NAFDAC to help address this?
No, you ask NAFDAC the question, they will answer you.
But you are a pharmacist.
Yes, I'm a pharmacist, and the Director General and Chief Executive Officer of NAFDAC is a pharmacist. So, and I believe and I know that she knows what to do. And if you ask her, she will tell you what she's doing. So I think you need to ask her. I'm not going to advise NAFDAC what to do, because I expect that an agency like that knows what to do. And then pharmacists, I have led the academic community, that's those who studied pharmacy and teach and do research in pharmacy in Nigeria for more than 2 years. And we are willing to do anything that agencies like NAFDAC or NIPRID, government wants us to do in these areas. It doesn't take anything. We don't require any billions of naira to do that. We are trained to do this. It's studies and then provide solution on how these things can be tackled. There's no reason why anyone should be using bleach to produce cassava. What are you even whitening the cassava for? Cassava is already white, you know. So I'm just wondering what you are whitening it for. Chemicals, you see, there are chemicals that can be used as preservatives. Chemical method of preservation is a known method of preservation, but all of these, they have acceptable limits of use. We call them acceptable limits of use. So whether every functional country, the regulatory authorities set standards on what should be done. And these standards are research driven. In other words, studies are conducted not using people that are alien, but using the people of your own country to know the range and the limit of these chemicals or poisons or drugs, as the case may be, that is acceptable in your own environment, and then people will still be safe. So people use drugs for a lot of, look, people use drugs even to fatten livestock. If you, I just told you that I just mentioned 4 countries that are notorious in the use of drugs in these areas. And for example, in Kenya and Uganda, studies have shown that even antiretroviral drugs are used to fatten birds and livestock. And instead of giving to human beings the drugs that were made to give to HIV patients, you are busy using it to fatten. And then some of these some of these birds, within 4 weeks, they're mature and they are people are already eating them. That is the reason. You see, even though some of the interviewees, some of the people you interviewed, we are saying they don't know that maybe that's what is responsible for cancer and all. The truth is, studies have shown that. In fact, for example, one of the metabolites in paracetamol, when you use paracetamol to cook food, one of the metabolites, 1,4-benzoquinone, what it does, in fact, it's a product. If you know what happens when you smoke, if you know what happens when you smoke, that's what you are doing. Actually, when you use paracetamol to cook food, or to cook your meat, or cook your beans, or cook food, what you are doing is that you are smoking. Because that chemical component that is in smoke, that is in the cigarette, is what you are also consuming. And you know the effect. I'm sure a lot of people already know the dangers of smoking. So when he mentioned cancer, it's true. In fact, studies in animals have shown that these things cause cancer. That this product of paracetamol use causes cancer. Studies in animals have shown. And if it has shown us in animals, the truth is it will do it also in man, because we do all our studies, first in animals before we go to human beings. So it does. So apart from that, you are going to suffer from kidney failure or liver failure and all of that. There's also the likelihood that you will have cancer. In fact, we have scientific reports and studies to show that these toxic intermediates or metabolites of paracetamol causes depression of bone marrow production. You see, bone marrow, that's how you generate blood. So if something is depressing the production of bone marrow, it means that you are as good as going away from this world. So actually, nobody should be using paracetamol to cook food. It sounds somehow, really. And
the other substances also lead to liver issues of liver failure and all that. So what should be done to put an end to this as pharmacists?
Yes.
What are you doing?
First is research. Anytime I have the opportunity, because I've been privileged to see in other climes where things are not done on emotional grounds. We are too emotional in this part of the world, and I'm talking about my country. We, as a matter of
urgency,
deliberate priority, government has to take research serious. The private sector has to take research serious. You see, and I'm deliberately mentioning government and private sector now, because if you ask most of us who are scientists in this country, who have done well, who have had privileges of going to other countries to do studies, most of those studies are sponsored by private organizations. In our own country, rather than support research for national development, are private organizations. And I'm not, some people will say now that it's their money, now what's your business with it? But it is a business. When all of us are in trouble, it becomes our business. But you see, our private people, philanthropists and corporate organizations prefer to donate their millions of naira for political activities than for research to be conducted towards national development. In other words, number one, research. Because it is research. In research, we ask questions. It is in research that we ask the questions, then we try to answer the questions and prefer solutions.
Now-
For example, you ask me that in Nigeria, where is it prevalent? How can we answer that question if there's no research?
Okay.
Now, when we know that it's prevalent, we also know why it is happening,
But
and
you
then what
as
should be done.
pharmacists, you should have creative ideas that can help generate some of these funds.
Research itself is creative.
All right.
Then it cannot be. I mean, research is creativity.
All right. Thank you very much. We're completely out of time. We do appreciate your comments today. Professor Martin Zemeje, immediate past national chairman of the academics pharmacists in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we must also thank you, our viewer, for always keeping this date with us on Nigeria Today. And the program airs every weekday at 7:30 p.m. Catch this and other episodes on our YouTube address, www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. Thanks for watching.